Okay, we are recording. This is episode 128 of A Conversation About Art. I am your host, Gabriela Handal. Today, I will be discussing the meaning of art and beauty with returning guest and artist Ryan Gutierrez. If you want to support the show, please check the video description. Ryan, please introduce yourself to whoever you might be new to.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan Gutierrez. I'm a professional comic book artist and writer. I was on here before with Gabrielle, you said about a year ago, I think you
I think
said.
so, yeah.
I can't believe it's already been a year. But I know time is slippery, greasy. But yeah, and in that time, I published one of my own, creative properties, and it did pretty well. And yeah, no, nothing really has changed since the last time. I'm still a professional doing the same job, but thought I'd come back and check in on her, see how she's doing. She invited me back, so
Yes. Okay, so this you had a Kickstarter thing,
yeah,
and this is the your personal work that you published, that what you're talking about right now. So I am curious about how that works, and if you could be like kind of thorough about how that
yeah,
works, because all right, so you drew and you wrote your story, like it's on the comic book is made
yeah.
and stuff, and then how does the Kickstarter part work? What is the purpose of the Kickstarter? And then, yeah, let's start with that.
So the way Kickstarter works is that it's if you are like me and you don't want to go through conventional publishers anymore, if you can avoid it, because you just want to be able to sell directly to customers. It doesn't work quite like a storefront. It's not like people buy it every here and there. It's more like you tell people, you got to build up hype beforehand and excitement so that if you do a 2-week campaign or a month campaign, people know that within that month that's the time to support you. And essentially the way it works is that you treat it more like you should treat it like this is something I've already done, and now if you'd like to support me because I already did it. Because I know some people, for example, they'll do the first few pages of a graphic novel and then they'll do a Kickstarter to like, hey, if you support me financially, I can finish it and get it to you in like a year. And so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that works, but I'm not a famous person. I don't have like 50,000, or 2 million followers who are going to just like throw their money at me. I had to earn people's trust. So I had already finished the book, and I was very clear to stress that in the advertising. I was like, this book is already done, so you'll get it within like a month or two of the campaign being over. And that I think was a big incentive for some people, because they get burned by Kickstarters before, where it's like, oh, I forgot about that. I
Sure.
gave that guy like $50. I never got my hardcover of like his collected Frank Frazetta paintings. Like, what
Yeah,
happened?
yeah.
Um, yeah. So that was a big part of it, and treating it as it's like really they're there to support you, so they're going to pay more than they would if they bought it off retail. The book's retail value was like $17, but they pay $30 because essentially what they're doing is that extra money goes towards paying for overhead, printing, shipping of like the highest quality, and then you give them add-ons. So like everyone's going to get a free download of a piece of music that was composed for the comic that they can listen to while they
Uh-huh.
read it. Cool things like that. And people, they get excited about it because you get to be a part of this thing. You're a part of a smaller,
Small
slightly more
business.
intense community.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Everybody, you can, yeah, sending frequent updates on the campaign through Kickstarter. But essentially, the way you got to do it is learn exactly the expense that it's going to be to create this thing. The physical copy, in my case, a graphic novel, and then carefully think about the price and how much of that you want to take home, and how much of it is needed to get the book out in the quality that you want.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Okay, so the purpose of the Kickstarter is to obtain money.
it's actually to get the book to people, and you want to make a profit for sure. But it's also like you treat it as like this is the way you're going to get the book. So it's really it's instead of going through a retailer, you go through Kickstarter. So essentially, they're paying to support the artist, to make sure the artist gets paid for their work, and to that money goes into the overhead and production of the item that they're sending out. So yeah, no, absolutely, it is to get money for sure. But
I
the
mean,
amount of
it's
money you take home as an artist is not always a lot.
sure. Yeah, yeah. No, no. But I mean, it's like all right. So I mean, I guess the wording is a little crude. But what I mean is that is that it funds it. So it's like, all right, your comic book, the comic is finished, and
Yeah.
then you put the Kickstarter out, or you announce it, and then so the money that people pay through the Kickstarter funds the printing
Yeah.
of the comic, like the shipping of the comic, and
Yeah. Yeah.
packaging.
Fulfillment is what they call that, fulfillment, because it's like
Yeah.
the whole everything that's done after the campaign is just fulfillment. It's like getting everything done and then,
Uh-huh, uh-huh,
but yeah.
uh-huh. Okay, okay, okay. And I mean, it would also fund kind of like your wage in a way
Yeah.
for having made
Yeah.
the comic.
Yeah, and there's people who, I mean, I'm not there yet, but there's people like making a living off of it where they do art books and graphic novels, and they have a community on Kickstarter that buys them, and they do 3 or 4 of them a year, and they pull in a lot of money. And for me, this is like I already have my full-time stuff, and this is something on the side that I'm building up. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I was like browsing Kickstarter, and I saw some people doing like, this is a collection of my paintings, in a hardcover, beautiful tabletop and it's like they got like, I mean, it was crazy. They had like a $10,000 goal, and they got like $330,000.
Oh my
It was like,
God.
oh my god, yeah, that you're buying a new house with that art book you made. Like that's incredible, but not there yet.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I was happy with how it did. It's the first one, so. But yeah,
Well,
that is essentially you're the way you describe it is essentially correct. Yeah,
okay. Well, I mean, I guess it makes sense if you're talking about a coffee table book. It makes sense that it would be more expensive because then the amount that you need to break even must be different, because it's like, oh my God, a
yeah,
hardcover, and it's like the pages are definitely different, because like coffee table
yeah.
books, I mean, I don't even have a coffee table, because we don't have that much, we don't have like a ton of furniture, because I think it's kind of overrated, and I use the living room for other stuff, but that's besides the point. The thing is that I do have coffee table books, and they're great. The,
Yeah,
the pages are luscious, they're thick, if you feel the thickness in your finger, and they have like this really great kind of satin surface, and like the
yeah,
cover, it's like a very satisfying object, besides the stuff that you can read within it. So I can see, like maybe that can be like, as you do it more, maybe that can be like one of your future Kickstarters, that it's like, oh, it's a coffee
mhm,
table book of like my collected works from the comics from the last 10 years or something, and then you're gonna
yeah.
be rolling in the, what do you call it, the Benjamins or something?
Yeah, the how you say Benjamins? Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
no, yeah, I'd love to do like an omnibus. I mean, the one thing I've been promising the fans is that book one did really well, and then I'm going to do book two, and then book three, and then after that I'll do like a collected edition that's like a
Mm.
hardcover of the first year of it,
Ooh,
with a
nice.
ton of extra stuff in there. I'll have all of my design sketches before it went to print, like all the failed drawings. I'll show my worst art. You'll get to see my awful the as Brad Rigney would call it, the exquisite turds that an artist doesn't
Uh-huh.
speak of. Um, Things like that. I mean, that's down the road, but yeah, definitely. I mean, you're right though. What you just said, that it would be more expensive to produce a book of
Sure,
that
yeah.
quality. So you have to kind of keep in mind, to anyone watching this, that when you see 330, like 350 grand that they got on a Kickstarter, the amount of money that each individual involved in the campaign is taking home is like, it's not that much. I mean, it is a lot. I mean, it's maybe 10, 15 grand a piece, but
Sure.
the price of overhead to get that book printed and shipped out to all those different people, that's already like at least a third of what you just saw of that big that haul. Um, and then of what's left of that, they divide it between, I'm sure, the person who did the bulk of the art, but then also the editors, who, the book designers, unless it was all one person. In my case, it was just literally just me, but I did a much simpler thing. Although I will say the print quality was super high, and that's one of the reasons I kind of upped the price a little bit, because it was like, these people at Comics Wellspring, they knew what they were doing. They wanted me to see what it looked like in like super high print quality,
Hmm.
and they said like, we're pretty confident you're going to want to go with this. And I'm like, I have it here. I can show people, but it's like
Sure.
beautiful glossy pages where the ink is slightly raised off of the rest of
Oh,
the,
nice.
so you can feel it in some of the pages. It's nice.
Yeah, you should show. I mean, if you want, you can show.
Yeah, yeah. I just need to grab it off
Yeah,
camera.
do
It's going
it.
to be really awkward for a second.
No problem.
I actually had a copy here behind me, but this is Black Marrow. It's here. I do this thing on my streams where I open a random page and I just show people the artwork.
Nice.
Yeah, just things like that. I mean, it's yeah, the like the print quality, the pages are just they're so fresh in my hand. They feel so clean, so cool, you know.
It
And
looks like it sounds really good too.
yeah, when you hear that sound when you
Yeah.
flip the pages. Yeah, it's very solid. It's very like it feels like the pages would be difficult to tear, you know, which is the thing with
Mm-hmm.
comics because you have a comic and you're excited about it as a kid, and then you take it with you everywhere because you're reading a graphic novel. But by
Sure.
the end of it, it looks like your dog chewed on it, and you're like, you know. So I wanted something that would. The goal was to make something that would be a mix of, you know, it's a graphic novel, but it also could double as like an art book that you would want on your shelf, you know,
Yes, yes.
with like really high quality illustration and
And
everything.
it looks
But
nice and thick too, like not none of
yeah,
those flimsy, scrawny comic
yeah,
books about which I'm going to complain right now, all right? So
do
listen,
it.
I like comics a lot, all right? I love
Sure.
um older X-Men comics. I don't know what the current ones are like. I'm going to I don't know. I don't know if I want to know. But
It's probably good that you don't know.
yeah, I'm not even gonna try. But I stopped buying them because even if you get them like at the pharmacy or whatever, all right, they're expensive, and there is so little story,
Yeah.
and there's so much ads, and there's
Yep.
always, even when kind of like the arc or whatever that you painfully follow through to the end, there's always like, oh, some other shit is gonna happen,
Yeah.
and it's like it's fucking never over. It's so frustrating.
Yeah. That's
It's
that's and sorry, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt you.
no, I mean it's just that like I understand that it's an ongoing story, but it's like, oh my god, dude, like I just got closure. Why are you ruining it for me? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's something that, and you'll see that and you're not the only person who's complained about this, as I'm sure you know. But there's people in the industry that are annoyed at this, and a lot of it you can map that with the thickening and thinning of the industry. Like when the industry is contracting and they're not doing well, you'll start to see way more bullshit. You'll start to see more like, oh, if you want to find out what happens to this character, pick up this totally unrelated book that has a crossover
Yeah,
because we
yeah.
need to we need to boost the sales of this character nobody cares about on this
Yes,
spin-off, you
yes.
know, series. And that happened for a while. And like people, they called it event fatigue, where people were tired of like big events that joined all these characters from different stories because they're like, you know, like I'm reading, like you said, X-Men. You're like, okay, I'm reading X-Men. I don't want to have to pick up X-Force, the like all this other stuff because I don't care
Yes.
about those books right now. I want, you know, and they were doing that a lot, and it ended up causing like a bit of a market crash in the mid 2000s, like 2007, 8, because people were just like, I'm done. I'm not doing this again. You can't do
Yeah,
this
yeah,
every
yeah.
6 months. You know, even narratively, like the story doesn't. If you're not giving people closure, as you said, like if you're not closing an arc before starting a new one, you're doing the soap opera thing. People just get fatigued and they just stop caring. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and so that's one of the. It's funny you brought it up because I one of the storytelling models that I'm going with now is that every graphic novel I do, I want it to be kind of like a full season of like an HBO series where it
Mhm.
feels like this is like a complete. Well, in this case, it's a complete single episode, but it's a kind of a big one. But it has a beginning, middle, and end. That's the way I want to do it because you can tell the culture is moving away from the monthly floppy 20-page book because if you're going to charge $5 for a comic and it takes 10 minutes to read it, it's like people are then buying it purely as a collectible. But then that's like most people don't care about that. They just want to read it.
Mhm.
So the graphic novel culture is getting way more popular because more people are like, I'd rather wait 6 months and then collect it all in one graphic novel and read it over the course of a few days and maybe even reread it if it's good, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so yeah, and we were, as the American market was very slow to get on that train because we were like, why is Japan outselling us? And it's like, well, because they have completed volumes that they know how to make cheaply, and because the stories end when it's appropriate. They don't just like drag it on because they're like they don't know what to do with it. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
sorry.
No, what? No, not a problem at all. Yes, I'm glad that, you know, the US market is catching on because that that's so old. And I
Yeah,
can't imagine I can't imagine with other, although, well, I guess the Superman is DC, but and I
yeah,
have very little familiarity with that, but um I think didn't Superman supposedly, didn't they make him like non-binary a while ago? Like this type of stuff, like that
his
has,
son. Yeah,
yeah, it's like this type of stuff hasn't that, I mean, hasn't that already gotten like super fucking old? Or like the
yeah.
what actually what we mentioned what we mentioned in your first in your first episode, which by the way, it's going to be linked in the video description, and you guys should watch that. Um, um, about the like kind of like the anti-hero or
Hmm.
like the Watchmen style of like, yeah, you're super mega powerful, but you're a piece of shit. This type of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
But you're like still
Yeah.
somehow a superhero, you know. And it's like, yeah, I mean that has gotten. I hope it's starting to at least get old because wow, it's fucking old.
It's been old for like 15 years, and people have been like demanding. It's crazy because you brought this up that you just said about what the things, the changes they're making with characters, and it's something that's been in my mind where I realize like this is one of the only times in like the history of entertainment media that people have been like, could you please stop doing this? And the people making the thing are like, no, like we're no. And people are like, we're not buying it anymore. Like, we don't care. And they're like, boom. And they're like, it's just like a tantrum. It's
Yeah, yeah,
insane. It's someone was just saying like they're not going to do this thing because they know you want them to, and it's just like it's so bizarre. It's like it's crazy. Like people have been like, could you please like go back to stories that have some kind of like moral center that's not based on a particular political view, but more about like universal human values of like compassion and justice. And they're like, no, we're not going to do that. Like, and it's your fault for asking me. It's really bizarre. Yeah,
yeah.
it's strange.
You know, I think I'm not entirely sure that it's necessarily that it's strictly like a political view as much as it is the kind of like the relativism that has come from postmodernism. So like
Yeah. Oh my god.
I had to listen to a bunch of Stephen Hicks and I forget a bunch of people's the other guys' name who explained that whole postmodernist thing. And but I mean, kind of like the gist of it is
Yeah.
that we can't know reality, and you know everything is relative, everything is debatable. It's like, oh, how do you know, or whatever, you know. And so like
Yeah.
what happens with and I mean that, you know, of course those statements have a degree of truth to them in some sense, because yeah,
Yeah.
everyone's perception can vary, but the perception of something can vary a lot from one person to the next.
Hmm.
But if that is everything there is, if that's the only thing there is, it is extremely frustrating and it's extremely confusing. So then I mean what is that? Because so that is applied to everything. Okay, it's
Yeah.
applied to art, it's applied to the comics, it's applied to, you know, teaching at the universities, it's applied to politics, it's applied to just everything. So then when it takes over that way, like a fucking virus just like contaminating all the systems, then that is, it's like you can't live that way
Yeah.
because you're living in a maelstrom of just shit. I mean,
Yeah. Of
there's
moral relativism.
yeah, I mean, there's no underpinning anywhere. There's no foundational, there's no cornerstone upon which to make a building for anything, you know?
Yeah.
So like that's
Yeah.
extremely frustrating. So I think that's also why, and thank you, you know, very grateful that's why there's like this boom in the atelier, for example, that there's a lot of people that are just not just opening ateliers, you know, like more classical training of art, but also, um, you know, people's this interest in representational work as well, and just kind of like art that has kind of some kind of foundation somewhere, you know, and which, you know, I'm it makes me very very glad and grateful because it feels
Yeah.
it's like it feels like there's less of a fog now.
Yeah, and you can tell how badly people needed it because the minute someone creates something like that, it's like opening a floodgate. Like people just pour in, they pour right into it because they're so people are so starved of like foundational creed of like what is or is not, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, like I think a really good way to put it that I heard someone say was you know, postmodernism has its place as far as deconstructing beliefs and ideas, but it was never meant to replace those beliefs. It was never meant to
Right.
be an ethos. it's,
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
system by which you admit you examine your own values and then you reassemble them so that you can carry on with your life. But we've been
Sure.
stuck in this postmodernist haze since I want to say the early 90s, and it's just like,
Longer than that, yeah.
yeah, probably. I mean, well, I mean, in terms of in order for postmodernism to kind of become mainstream, I know that it existed far before that, but I just
Sure,
mean
yeah.
like it became kind of like the mainstream, and like for me, I mean, as a child of the '90s, it seems like that's when it started to like overtake admittedly the very simplistic moral binary that was in the 80s. It was like a reaction, but we've been kind of stuck in it, and it feels like people who are growing up now, who are younger than you and I, don't even realize how much they hate moral relativism because it's all they've known. And
Mm.
it's like they're miserable. It's like it's killing people. It makes people miserable to tell them that there's no such thing as right and wrong, that everything is a matter of perspective. Like because, well, it's not true. Like when someone says that, I just start giving them examples of like the most horrific things a person can do, and you're going to tell me that's subjectively, like, that in someone's point of view it's fine. Like, no,
Right.
you don't think that. Like, even not only do I not believe all morality is relative, I'm like, I know you don't believe that either. Like, you don't really believe, you just haven't challenged yourself, because it's one of the things people just say over and over, and they don't even question themselves. It's like they're not even listening to themselves when they speak. Oh yeah, everything's a matter of perspective. It's like, really, everything? So yeah, I agree with you, and I think and I really hope that we're getting to this place where we're starting to move out of the way you called it, the fog of moral relativism. Like, it's just like this soup that we're moving through, and it's this lukewarm. It's like this soup that's been out for like days. It's just
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not hot, it's not cold. It's just this gross, like, formless mass that's just, and I think it's been terrible for the art world. It's been terrible for creation. I mean, you look at, because if everything's relative, who's to say what's good art, and who's
Right.
to say that a sculpture that looks like a wrinkled turd isn't on the level of David?
Right.
No one, right? It's terrible. Yeah, I hate it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, no,
really don't
no.
like it.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure, because that thing with art in particular, cuz yeah, art for sure has maybe was even like the first one to just be just fucked, you know? Um like I think it was the first one. I mean, all right, maybe not the first one, but it was like at least visibly it was like the first, because with Duchamp and everything, it's like, "Oh yeah, that's okay, cool. Thanks." Kind of like that's just like I just feel like it was like the first victim of that
Mhm.
whole kind of system of ideas, I guess. And
Yeah,
I've heard Dr. Jordan Peterson. I call
yeah,
him Jordan because we're on first name basis.
of course.
No, we're not. All right. I don't want to spread malinformation.
Yeah.
But anyway, the thing is that he like it's I mean, I just want to repeat what you were saying just now. It's like asking, it's not wrong to ask what is art, right?
Of
It's
course.
not wrong to ask, does me putting a pen on a pedestal make it a work of art? It's like that is a valid question, because it's like yeah, I think it's worth asking, like, why do I feel this way about this magnificent painting? Is it because it's in a
Mhm.
frame? Like kind of like trying to analyze the reasoning of what might be happening there. And
Right.
hopefully eventually you get to the point it's like, oh, it's the divine or whatever. Like, you go through these like
Mhm.
steps of kind of following this path, but then it's like that it's I think part of the reason for which all of humanity fell victim to, or we let ourselves fall victim to this whole thing, is because in a way it's really easy. And
Oh yeah.
in the sense that everything in nature, including in the body, like your compensations when you're doing exercise or something and then your back starts to hurt, it's like we you know nature follows the path of least resistance. So like that means basically, usually it means whatever is easiest. So then it's like, oh yeah, I mean, everyone's perception is different. That must mean that just reality doesn't exist or something. That must mean that it is impossible to really know reality, you know?
Yeah.
So then it's like, all right, that's it. That's your statement. There's no further thought into that other than maybe saying it in different ways, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true. Like, it's funny when you realize how much philosophy and like theory of reality, if you follow each one to its conclusion, they kind of get to a similar place. Sorry about that. I got excited. I knocked my camera
No
over.
problem.
Um, Hopefully, I hope that stays in. I won't blame you for editing that out. But yeah, like the idea that the more you think about reality and how we fit into that, the closer we get to very similar ideas of like people, the simulation theory. Have you heard about this? I've heard people.
Stimulation?
The idea that we're all living in a simulation,
Yeah, I've heard
and
that.
all these brilliant scientists who are these, super secular atheists are like, well, there's a lot of evidence to suggest that we are living inside of what is essentially a simulation created by a
Evidence?
being that.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. I don't know how you acquire evidence of this, but maybe I'm just too much of a knuckle dragging caveman. But they're like, oh yeah, that we're living in a simulation, and that it's something created by a being that exists in a higher dimension. And I was like, you're almost there. You're almost there. You're almost getting to a place where you're just going to say like, there's God.
Uh-huh, uh-huh,
And it's
uh-huh.
just like, and it's not me pushing God, whatever. I don't care. People can believe what they want, but it's just funny that those are the same people that like, we got to move past these ideas of God and heaven and stuff. We got to trust in science, and then they follow science to this idea that like, well, there's got to be something creating all this. And it's just like, well, you know I just find that
Mhm.
interesting. I don't know,
It is
but
interesting.
I'm super oversimplifying it. I recognize that.
I think the only person who I have heard, and I mean, I didn't watch like the entire interview or anything, I think was Elon Musk that said that
Yeah,
we are,
he
that
was one of
it's,
the ones who said that. Yeah.
well, that it's possible at least.
Hmm.
Um, well, I don't remember exactly kind of what the train of thought was, but it was something like, if, all right, just give me a minute.
I'm going to
If,
enjoy watching you do this.
uh, if we ever got to the point of being able to make a simulation
Hmm.
complicated enough or something, then we're probably already there, which means that we are in the simulation, something like that. I don't remember exactly if that's it,
Hmm.
and but it's kind of something like that. But you know, I just have such a hard time believing that. Just because I don't think that we are, and based on the way that we see things,
Yeah.
because for example, we really like Occam's razor. The simplest thing is the answer or whatever, for example, first of all.
Yeah.
Second of all, the way that we view the body, for example. For example, like if you're an artist and you're studying the body, it gets divided into skeletal system, muscular system, the skin, and that's it. It's all separated like that. All right. If you are a doctor person or like a health person, that is also how they study the body. All the systems are separated, and you specialize, you hyper focus, specialize on one thing. This type of stuff. So like, that's not how shit works. All right.
Yeah.
That is not how shit works. Everything is connected. And
Hmm.
I don't think, and it's like that's one of the reasons for which I think that there's no way that we can make that this is a simulation, because of the way that everything is connected. And
Yeah.
it's like when it's like, this sounds kind of woo, but it's like the way that I mean that everything is connected is that everything is fucking connected. All right. It's like we use electricity to for the light and stuff, and we also make electricity, for example.
Yeah.
And then there's a whole thing about earthing, about how when you stand on dirt, there's like something
Absolutely.
about the freaking the electricity of the earth and your electricity or your energy, whatever you want to call it. I
Yeah.
don't
The
I don't know
grounding,
what.
right?
Yeah, it's grounding, earthing, one of the two. I don't know. Um, for example, so just like for me, that is enough to counter the argument that we're in a simulation. Cause like there's no way we could make that. It's like you would
Yeah.
have to be you would have to have like at the very least some of that like Eastern philosophy,
Hmm.
some whole other shit to even try to make a simulation that is this good.
Yeah. And also, I just the idea that when I heard it, I just started laughing because so this is something. This is my own theory. This is something that's been going on in my head, and I don't know what the word for it is, but I think I'm going to call it. It's like I'm going to it's like an intellectual disease, and it's like because people have asked me. I've been in conversations with people I don't know how it came up, but I've been like, I'm not an intellectual, and they're like, really? Like you're not, because it's like if you read a lot and if you're interested in things, people will put you in that. But I'm in no danger of being that smart, but I also just don't feel. I feel like a lot of how I would describe intellectualism is that it's for a lot of people, it's like it seems like thinking about things becomes their religion, and as a result, you will, because you're worshiping the thought, the act of thinking, right? That becomes your object of worship. You end up just overdoing it, and then you end up in a place where you just start sounding stupid. Like it's
Mhm.
like it's like overtraining. It's like you can lift weights and get stronger. You can also lift weights so much that your joints start to break down and your nervous system goes haywire, right? And you start getting anxiety and you start sleeping badly. That's happened to me when I was a boxer. I would overdo it, and I'd be like, I feel like my testosterone is actually going down. I'd be like, I feel terrible. I'm
Mhm.
depressed, because they were like, yeah, you're overtraining, you're not eating enough. You've got to pull back, like pull back by like 20-30%. Same thing happens, I think, with thinking. And a good example of this is I was in a conversation, and a good example of this is the simulation theory. It's people thinking so much that they're creating something that actually sounds nonsensical to anyone just relying on a fair amount of common sense. And but also an example of this was I was talking with a friend of mine. We were both rereading Dune, the Dune books by Frank Herbert, who was a brilliant person, like just an insanely brilliant man. But towards the end of his career, he started just saying things where you're like, "What are you talking about?" And one of the things he said was, because if you ever seen Dune, or we talked about Dune the last time, but like
Yeah.
in his books, a big part of it is like warning people about putting all of your faith in a single leader, as like creating a messiah out of an ordinary
Right.
person, and how they become a tyrant. And that was something he was always hitting on, that like over and over in his writing. And then he said some quote that my friend thought was really smart and I thought was deeply fucking stupid. Is that he said, well, JFK was actually the worst American president because he was so charismatic that he kind of created this thing around him where he was like a heroic figure. He's like, and Nixon was really the best president because he taught people about how corrupt leaders could be. And I was like, that is so dumb. And it's the kind of thing people say that like, oh yeah, totally, like that sounds so smart, unless you think about it for a second. You're like, what are you talking about? I was like, by that logic, the best leader ever was like Chairman Mao because he killed 80 million people, and that proves something. People learn from that. Like people learn. It's like that's so dumb. Like that's such a terrible. And I'm sure if he was in a conversation, he would have described it more in a
Who had
balanced
explained
way.
it?
Yeah, but attributing that quote, like I've read the quote and I was like, that is the kind of thing that like someone who's not smart hears that and they go, oh wow, I never thought of it that way. And it's like, think about it a little more. Like you're probably smarter than you're smart enough to know that what this person's saying is dumb. And that's an example of just like he just thought so much about something that he came out the other side, pulled a 180 degrees, and he came out the other side as an idiot. And I don't, that's not me casting an aspersion on the man for his whole life.
Sure.
I think he was a brilliant writer and much smarter than me. But I think because he was much smarter than me, he just started thinking so much until he started having some really bad ideas. And like that's an example of it. And maybe I'm misquoting him, but I'm pretty sure that's the quote. That's essentially the quote. Um, and yeah, I mean that's an example of just like people they just think so much about one thing, and it's like your body doesn't want to be a specialist, and neither does your brain. If you do one thing over and over physically, you develop compensations, as you said.
Hmm.
It's funny because you and I are both into fitness, so we're both, but I think your brain does that too. If you focus on a single idea and you meditate on it at the expense of a balanced intellectual physique, then you're going to end up with like absurd philosophical compensations that just make you stupid. Um, yeah.
You I mean, was he like older and stuff? Because it might have been like some kind of neurological decline type thing too.
Could have been. It could. I don't know when it was said. I assumed it was at the end of his career because a lot of the weirder things that he said came at the tail end of his career. It's like when he was writing his last 2 or 3 books, which I tried to read recently, and I was like, this is like either I'm too dumb to understand this, or he was doing so much hallucinogenics that the narrative is like, oh, it's crazy. I mean, some people love those last books, but whoever you are, DM me and explain them to me because it's like an acid trip. It's like because the first Dune book is weird, but you can follow it and it's great. And then
Yeah.
you get to like the last one and you're like, wait, they're in a garden and they're talking to God, and then there's like a who's there? What happened? What happened to these people? Like what year is this now? You're like, and it's like I don't know. I know he got really into hallucinogenics later in his life, so it's a part of it probably.
So then you went and read the things that came after the first Dune book.
Yeah, I read the. I mean, I had read when I was a kid, the first one, and then the up until like the fourth one, and the first 4 books are like really good. and then he does like another 3, I think.
But didn't he
And those
have?
last 3,
Weren't some of the
yeah,
books also written like by his children or something?
that's afterwards. There's like 30 or 40 more, maybe
Right.
even more than that, that were written by his son.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Because I keep because I mentioned this in the your previous episode, which will be in the video description. That we watched the Dune movies, like the more recent ones,
Mhm.
and I also watched the super shitty one that unfortunately has poor David Lynch's name in it. Um, it's like he has herpes in his face just because he's related to that movie. It's so bad. But anyway, and I was like, I
So
mean, okay,
it's a
then
40-year cold sore.
it's so bad. It's really, really bad. Yes, 40-year-old Gorzo, perfect. Um, and then so anyway, but then I was like, I was telling my husband, it's like, yeah, these movies are okay, but the book, the book, that's some whole other shit,
Yeah.
I mean, they don't, the movies, I don't think the movies do justice to the book.
Mhm.
And I keep telling him, like,
Fair.
yeah, you should read them and stuff. And so he then goes to look up, about buying the book. And of course, the Amazon is like talking to you about bundles and shit. And there's like 50 fucking books and it's like half of them, the guy didn't even write them. And I'm like, no, calm down. All you gotta do is read the first book. That's all you gotta do,
Yeah.
Because I mean, and as far as I'm concerned, that's all you need. It's like he didn't need to write anything else. I don't think, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, speaking of closure that we mentioned earlier, I was very satisfied with. It's like I've read the book, I don't know, like 3 times maybe. It's like
Oh
every time
wow.
I'm like, yeah, this book, it's fucking perfect. Don't do anything else to it, you know.
Yeah. So
Um,
you never read like Dune Messiah or Children of Dune?
mm-mm.
They're pretty good. They're pretty
No.
good. They're different, but and he definitely, a lot of it is him expounding on some of the themes from the first one. But I would say they're all, in my opinion, the second and third book are worth it to get to the fourth book, which is God Emperor of Dune, which in my opinion could be the final book of the series. You could have those
Mm-hmm.
first 4 because it's really, I mean, it's nuts, but it's like it's full circle with the first book in a really nice way. But I
Interesting.
also agree that you can enjoy that first novel and be like, that world is closed for me and it's perfect and I
Right.
don't need anything else.
Yeah, yeah.
Dune Messiah is a bummer. The second book is a bummer. It's like, oh,
Yeah, I'm not
sorry.
surprised. No, that's cool. I'm not surprised. No, I'm actually, and I'm gonna like throw flowers on myself here. I'm pretty good at knowing when to cut shit off.
Yeah.
When something doesn't need anything else, and it's like I'm not a writer or anything. Like I often have discussions with my husband. I'm like, yeah, this movie is terrible because of this and this and this. I don't trust this series that we're watching because I don't like where it's going. I don't like what they're doing. I don't know. Like I'm a big story snob, you know. So
Yeah.
anyway, the thing is that The Matrix, for example, there's only one movie. All
Yeah.
right, it's the first one. There's nothing else.
Yeah.
The Wachowskis did nothing else of value. That's it. All right.
Yeah.
For example, there's that. There is a Star Trek series called Enterprise. It has
Yeah.
like I don't know how many seasons. The only season is the first one. That's all you need. That is the and it's the best Star Trek as far as I'm concerned. Also,
Really? You place it
yes,
above? Oh, okay. All right.
original series.
Yeah,
I do.
I like
Yes.
Enterprise. I like it a lot. Next Gen for me is like it's something I grew up watching, so I have an
Yeah. No.
emotional
Of
attachment to
course.
it.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
But I like Enterprise. I think
Patrick
it's great.
Stewart. Come on. You gotta.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's just that freaking Scott Bakula, man, and like that whole the intro song. It's like it is so good. The intro song,
Yeah.
just this. It's like the story is so good, and I find it way more inspiring than the other regular Star Trek, because it talks about the struggle part
Hmm.
of trying to get out there.
Yeah.
So then that's like I'm getting goosebumps right now, and it's like that's so it's like, for example, and I think it's superior in terms of story and stuff that happens throughout the series for the following reasons. So it's like, because the technologies are not completely polished, you can get away with, oh, there's interference in the whatever, for example. Or it's like,
Hmm.
oh, the transportation of me from here to there didn't work.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't get to you because you're too far away. So it's like,
Yeah.
that doesn't work when you're like, I don't know how many fucking centuries further ahead in the future. It's like, didn't you
Oh yeah.
fix this shit by now?
Yeah, yeah.
But it makes perfect sense when we're an enterprise. You see what I'm saying? So then
No,
it's
yeah,
like,
absolutely, yeah.
so then it is rock solid for me. Like there's no holes like that. As there are in the
Right.
other ones. You see, so then I just think that because of those things, it makes it that much, so much
Yeah.
better.
There's more opportunities for suspense because it feels very like DIY, like they're
Very,
just doing it
yeah.
themselves, putting it together. And that's one of the things I really liked about. I mean, Enterprise was that was an ambitious series to do. That was a gamble for them because Star Trek up until that point, the way it's viewed by people is that it's about an idealistic future where most of our problems are solved and we're just exploring. And they're like, wait, but hold on. They're like, hold on. We talked about this, but we mentioned this period in the like late 21st, early 22nd century where we were like figuring out how to be evolved humans, and it was like a rough road up. And like, let's do a show about that. And I was like, oh, that's great. Nobody takes risks like that anymore. If you compare that to stuff now, I'm going to get on my high horse. I'm sorry, everybody, but if you compare that to stuff now, and everybody's just doing prequels because, like, every new Star Trek thing, first of all, is fucking terrible, but also they're all based before, they're all prequels to what we've seen because they're so afraid of adding to the timeline in a way that's like everything, because if they make it a prequel, everything is like a little bit subjective whether or not it's officially canon, because they know they're not as good as the writers from even 20 years ago from Enterprise, or 25. They know that they're shitty TV writers and that they don't even understand what Gene Roddenberry was doing when he created that world. So yeah, you can see it, you can see the insecurity. And when you look at a show like Enterprise, like that was very like that was balls out, like we're going to try something. I know that people who are fans of it were disappointed because I think they ended up canceling the show when they were like in the middle of a story arc.
Okay, what
Right?
happens is that
Tell me.
after the first season, it's just trash. That's why.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah,
So
I
that
because
that's
I've
what
seen the
I'm
first season. I never saw season two.
right. No, you're not missing anything. Now that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
It's like for all right. Star Trek Enterprise first season. That's it.
Yeah.
Perfect. You don't need anything else because what they did afterwards, they changed the intro song. All right. First of all, first
You
fucking
don't do that.
mistake. All right.
You don't
Uh,
do that. That's
and then they
yeah.
fucking ruined the story with some bullshit. It's like, no, just stick to what you're doing. There is so much more to talk about in this very same,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, working on the technology. It's like, what else? Like, because, for example, there's like the other issue of like the thing that makes the food that just like generates the
Oh, the
food.
replicator.
Uh-huh,
Yeah.
yes, thank you. The replicator. Um, there's this one guy that's like the southern something with the catfish and stuff. I don't know where he's from, Tennessee or something. And he's like, I don't
Okay.
trust that replicator. And it's like, yes, yes, I wouldn't either, bro. you know?
Yeah.
So
It's
it's
like a
like,
new invention. Like yeah.
yeah, I don't know about that. And it's like the thing that transports you. It's like, yeah, I don't want to get on that thing. Forget it. You know?
Yeah. Listen, if you drop me into Star Trek Next Gen, like, and you drop me in that world where it's the 24th century, you're still going to have to really smooth talk me into getting on that
Yeah.
the why am I blanking out the teleporter,
Teleport,
that's
yes.
yeah, that would be no. You'd have to like really sit me down and be like, listen, we tested it several times. I'm going to be like sitting there rocking back and forth. The idea that it takes your particles apart and puts it together in another spot, it's like, haven't you guys seen The Fly? That's how he transforms.
Yes. Oh my
um,
God. Yeah, no, there's actually a whole episode about somebody having that very issue that they're kind of just like
yeah,
stuck being particles.
is
Uh,
that's
in
all
in
that's
in
in
Enterprise, I mean.
yeah, because it happens in Next Gen too. Well, actually, so really really cool in Next Gen. They have some great stories. One of them is one of the characters in the ship has an anxiety issue. He has panic attacks, and he's terrified of using the transporter because the idea of his particles being taken apart and put he and Captain Picard's like, listen, he's like, I know you have some anxieties, but like, you're a member of the ship and you got to do your fucking job, get on the thing and do it. So he does it and he's fine. But while he's in that period where your like particles are moving through space and time, he sees like a phantom. He sees like a ghost or something. And then he's just the whole episode, he's like, I saw some shit when you were doing that. And he's like, and they're like, bro, you're just scared. You're seeing, people are like trying to be respectful, but they're like, you're kind of a fraidy cat. So like you might have just seen a shadow of like, and they're like, well, maybe there's a like remnants of light and shadow from people that have moved through the transporter, like like it's remembering something,
That sounds fucked
and
up.
eventually And then eventually they find out that there's literally a life form that feeds off of the energy from the particle accelerator to transform, and it's like been stuck there just eating, and it's like that's why the transporter keeps breaking, is because this thing is just like devouring. It's real, and like the fact that he's the only one who sees it, it's like this. It's like one of those episodes. Like, am I crazy or is everyone else crazy? One of my favorite episodes. But
Wow, I don't remember
yeah,
that. I don't
yeah.
remember that. That's
I'm glad
messed
we got on
up.
Star Trek. I love. No, I know that would give me that would be terrifying to me. It's like a slug too. It's like a floating slug that he's. It's like something gross. But yeah,
Ew.
yeah, it's
Okay.
great. It's a great
Uh,
television.
all right. So yeah, maybe we can talk about this. Well, I guess we have been talking about this breakdown of, I don't know, culture? Some people say it's culture.
Yeah,
But I guess Jordan maybe would say it's like, oh, the stories, because we love being told stories because that's how we learn stuff.
yeah. Well, he
Um,
also said that reality is a story, and I think he's totally right. I know he didn't.
yes.
I know he didn't coin that theory. I think that was invented before him, but I think maybe it was Carl Jung that he's talking about. But
Mm,
essentially, that he realized people perceive reality through narrative. So when you break down the narrative of stories, like you do with moral relativism, where there's no hero and villain anymore, you break down the personal reality of people as individuals, and then you break down our collective reality,
right.
which is like bad for society as a whole. Like, well, what makes a community of you and me, and what makes the fact that we're essentially perceiving the same story, right? The story of us as a collective character, and taking the actions that we've seen heroes take in stories in little ways so that we can associate, we relate to that main character in the way that we behave in our it's so essential that we have a narrative of good and evil. And yeah, the breakdown of the narrative and trying to replace it with this like this formless sludge, this like postmodernist relativist slop. It's so bad. It's like I this is like what I think about all day. Like this is, I mean, not all day, but like this is essentially like
Sure.
the only thing I care about with my work. And it's funny because people will look at it and they'll be like, "Bro, it's a comic about a werewolf gunman." But it's like I don't care. Like everything I do, I just like someone. I'm gonna post it soon, but someone sent me feedback on the book. Someone who got to read it, and she's a really sweet lady. She's like one of my like one of my first fans, and she was just like, I want to let you know that I've read it like 5 times. And I was like, oh wow, shit, really? And she was like, yeah, it's so nice to read a story about somebody doing the right thing, and like that they enjoy their job, that they like doing the right thing, that it's not, what I mean, like just she's like, it was just so nice to see someone like do the right thing, face the struggles, get it done, and like things were okay, like, and to still have it not talked down to me, like it's writing up to readers. It's a little, it's sophisticated in some ways, but she's like, but the fact that you had a very simple like good versus evil, she's like, I have been wanting that so bad, and I can tell that you were trying to give people that, like it was very focused on that. And
Nice.
I saved it. I like screen capped it and I saved it, and I like look at it when I'm not in the mood to work, because I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
this is like doing something for somebody. But I'm sorry
yeah.
I cut you off.
No, no, no. It's just that the whole thing about good and evil. People like to shit on that and be like, oh, it's so simplistic and whatever it is, and it's like the thing is that it's not. All right.
It's not at all.
It's
Yeah,
not. And then I was, because like, so like the train of thought went between of like this thing about doing the right thing, that you, because your characters have to deal with this stuff, and
yeah,
virtue, because um I'm sure Jordan didn't invent this, but I heard it from him first, that there's no virtue in being harmless, in the
yeah,
sense that if you don't kind of like integrate or accept your capability of being evil and doing bad things, then there's no virtue when you do the right thing, because so often doing the right thing is way more fucking difficult, like really difficult,
yeah.
you know and it's
And you'll be
scary.
punished for it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, and I mean, it can be something as simple, lots of people have gone through this in the, all throughout, it doesn't have to be recently. Like I hear, I get annoyed, because yeah, when people will say like, oh, this has never happened in human history, and it's like, no, it's happened. You just don't know that it has happened. But anyway,
Yeah.
the thing is that it's not new that we feel like that a person feels like they have to censor themselves for fear of what other people are going to think, or
Hmm.
that they're going to be punished for saying what they think to be the truth.
Yeah.
Um, like, and then I mean, this happened um, with the SARS-CoV-2 vaccine, for example. People that were like they were like afraid of getting it, for example. They were like, "Oh, you're being stupid," or whatever. This type of stuff. Or they were just being berated for having any
Hmm.
kind of doubt about whatever it was. Um,
Yeah.
for example, and same with any other opinion that you can think. With the George Floyd or the Black Lives Matter, any kind of thing that was like,
Yeah.
oh, but what did he do? How dare you ask what he did? He's a victim of the
Yeah.
system or whatever. Like that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so that you can even ask any kind of a question about or have any kind of curiosity on the subject. And then if you happen to think that he actually did something wrong, then God fucking protect you then.
Oh
Because
yeah.
you're
Yeah.
so like that's what I'm saying. Sometimes, so I mean, those are just examples of a case of somebody did some kind of research and they discovered some information that the news is not telling you. For example, the news media is not telling you about, because we know
Yeah.
that the media manipulates it. Like, it doesn't even matter what side they are; they're always manipulating things.
Yeah.
um and if you happen to say something that the news did not say, then God fucking help you too. you know
We've been trained for that. We've been trained. We've been trained to like go after people. It's like the way you see it, and what you talk about Jordan Peterson, he describes it as you can tell when someone's possessed of an ideological demon because their
right,
face will just change. You'll say something that's like not a part of the approved narrative, and people they like there's something switches. And I've seen it. Like I saw a discussion between two people. I remember this is like 4 years ago, where one of them was like not even anti-vaccine. They were just like concerned about whether or not it had been properly tested
right,
before taking it. And the other person, her friend, got so angry at her for even questioning it. And it's like, something Peterson talks about is like, I forgot, I think he was talking about, communism, and how the best thing they can do is that they actually turn citizens into, you make them complicit in their own tyranny. You make them
right,
fight each other. You make them tell on each other, and like people, like there's something like 30% of the population were informants in Soviet Russia, I
right,
think. Which is just like crazy. Like that's like millions and millions of people that are basically like your steady informants who will just call you and let you know if anybody says anything out of line, and nobody thinks that they're the bad guy.
right,
But it's like, if you're trying to stop people from asking questions or for criticizing, if literally your mission is to silence people from questioning or criticizing the government, whether you're left or right, I don't care, you're definitely the bad guy.
right.
It's crazy. And people, and like that, the fact that that's a politically charged statement, that someone will brand, someone listening to this could just be like, oh, he's alt-right because I think that you should be able to criticize your government. It's like, or question your government, or question their like, it's nuts, man. But I think that culture is kind of dying down. I mean, it seems like some of the doors are starting to open up again, and people like are having more debates in public. I feel like there's a little bit less demonization in some circles. Some of it's ramped up, but some of it is winding down, because I think the people that stand to make money off it are realizing, like, okay, this has not been super profitable, and at
Yeah,
least not anymore. Um, like you mentioned the media, and how they're both like almost all media right now is like propaganda machines. Like they're losing, their ratings are terrible. Like, and they get a little boost when they, you know, put up some ridiculous story that's like 50%, bullshit. But then the long term, the arc is that the ratings go down because people trust them less and less. YouTube channels that do news are like getting way more views than NBC, CNBC, Fox News. It's the culture is shifting so heavily right now because people are realizing that, you really, really, like, have to always ask what someone stands to gain from leading you a certain way.
mm,
You know, and
sure, yeah,
and that's not. I'm not really, I mean, I guess I am kind of taking a side, but generally, like, someone pointed out, like, conservatives and Democrats and Republicans both have money that comes in from different organizations that stand to benefit from who's in power, and
Yeah,
just
of course.
looking at who that is, you'll start to see why they vote a certain way.
Sure, yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, I was when you mentioned communism, I was like, yeah, people like to throw around the term fascist a lot lately,
Yeah. Oh, that's
and I'm
their
like,
favorite.
because like far right or whatever, and it's like that it's the fucking same thing as communist, right? It's like the fucking same thing. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, and I thank God that I a while ago discovered a horseshoe theory, which precisely mentions how fucking similar they are, and it makes a horseshoe because it's like, yeah, you do a 360, you don't do a 180.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because yeah, it's like the whole, because it's like, there weren't informants just in Soviet Russia. There were informants like for the Nazis as well, for
Yeah.
example. And for example, here in the United States, I think they got close when the Red Scare was like, pretty amped up as well. That people
Yeah.
were kind of like, oh, he's a communist. He was a communist. It's like
Just freaking
and
out.
he
Yeah.
ties. Yeah, so it's like, I mean, it's like the same thing of like reporting on people that you should have like an intimate trust relationship, meaning that it's like you have this issue with them, that you see that perhaps they're a little commie there, or like a little
Hmm.
fascist there, but then you're like, hey, stop it. You don't go and
Yeah.
tell fucking daddy government about it.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, I think that's an extreme of, it's like, that's the opposite of virtue, because that's the easiest thing, to just go with what you hear the most, I guess. Like if you hear
Mhm.
all of the news outlets say this one particular thing, and you just repeat that, without thinking about what it might mean, or whether it's correct or not, that's way easier. It's a lot easier than just even thinking about it, or asking the question of whether it is indeed correct or not. you know
Yeah.
and I think, um I guess we've strayed a lot from the subjects, but it's not completely unrelated, because if we're talking about not just art, but also about trying to grapple with the subject of beauty in works of art, it's the same thing, because it's a lot easier to pretend that anything can be art, and then you don't have to do anything. You don't have to cultivate a skill. You don't have to go through the struggle of feeling frustrated, feeling like an idiot, like I can't even draw a straight line, like this type of stuff. You don't have to go through the difficulty of that, and you don't have to earn
Hmm.
anything. You can just be like, yeah, I put a pen on a pedestal, I'm an artist. you know
Hmm.
and then it's like, once you start cultivating the habit of trying to draw or paint, or make a comic, or whatever it may be, whatever the person's endeavor may be, um it's like, then all right, you're on a path to something, right? So like, you're kind of practicing, meaning that each time there's a new iteration of the circumstance, you try to do it as best as you can, and then you practice doing it as best as you can each time it happens again. you know
Hmm.
and so like, kind of, it's like every time it's super difficult. That's how it feels for me. I mean, it might be that I don't draw as often as I should be drawing, but every drawing feels really difficult. Like every drawing, I feel like I don't remember how I did it the previous time. I wouldn't be able to tell you how I did it the previous time. Or like, I look at older
Really.
drawings that I really like, and I'm like, I don't know how I fucking did that. Don't ask me. I don't know. uh you know
Yeah.
I was like, no, I just drew and erased until it looked this way. I don't know. That's about it. That's about all I can tell you.
Yeah.
But anyway, so like, you kind of build, you kind of try to climb, or whatever, walk as however far you have to walk. And it is on that path that one faces the struggles each time the new iteration shows up. And then something like that. I'm kind of rambling a little bit.
No,
um
it's okay. I'm following.
yeah, it's just because I guess I just want to put us back on the
Hmm.
more solidly on the subject of art and beauty, because I guess I want to find a solid connection, like a good solid connection, a connection between art production, beauty, and then those other, like the divine.
Hmm.
Because I feel like I've gleaned it the last few times that I've talked to people. I told you that I'm kind of filtering my guests a little bit, and I feel like I'm kind of had a glance here and there.
Yeah, no, if I can jump in, I think
Yeah.
what you're saying is, I think they're all connected. It might seem like we went far in some directions, but it's actually because we're talking about essentially the effects of moral relativism, which is what we say. Like, you talk about art chasing the divine, and that's like I really believe that, and something if I really think about moral relativism in art, in the art world and in terms of like moral narrative, it essentially creates a flat environment, right? Because the whole point of relativism is to remove hierarchies. So if you're removing moral hierarchies, you're also removing hierarchies of excellence, and yeah, that's totally that's the result is essentially like you said. I mean, if anything you decide is art, then there's no room for discussion of excellence, because who's to say that, as you say, the pen on top of a pedestal is not as great as something you spent weeks on, to get the perfect glint in a person's eye, or the yeah. And I agree that the result of that is like pretty catastrophic. And also I think you see that with the AI conversation, because people that are perpetrating that crap and making AI, generated images by typing in something and then posting it online, knowing that it's essentially stealing work from people by generating images by using the pre-existing art. That's literally how it works. For anyone who doesn't know, that is the result of a brain that's just like, yeah, it doesn't matter, who fucking cares, because they exist in they're in the soup. They're in the lukewarm soup of moral relativism, and they walk through it every day, and they don't even know that there's a surface above the soup where there's much clearer air, because they're just moving through it. So they're just like, oh yeah, yeah. I mean, who cares? Who cares? Whatever. I typed in this artist's name. I typed in this other thing, and I aped his style to make this image. This soul, literally a soulless image that an untrained eye might think is a drawing, or might think is a photograph, but based on the comfort of my relativist position, who's to say that what I'm doing doesn't have the same value as that person who spent like a year, creating something that could inspire people. Like, you can see it, you can see what that did to people, and we're our language around it's becoming more sophisticated, where there's more disgust now on it. Like, people are just like disgusted by it. Like, I remember it was the irony of this. There was a post on like it's just some Instagram account where they do like retro photos where they show things from the 70s and the 80s to
Mhm.
be like, oh, like a little bit of nostalgia. And one of them was an AI image to talk about, to like using an AI image to show kids then versus kids now. And it was like kids in the 70s playing on the swing sets, kids now on their phone. And someone in the comments was like, you're talking about how things were better then, but you're using an AI image to show that. And it's clearly AI, like it looked terrible. And they're just like, what are you doing? Like, were the photographs not available? Like, well, why do this? And it's because it's literally faster, I guess, for them to do a generative AI image than it is to. And it's just, I think moral relativism and the decline of art that it created, I think, are both a result of an extreme 360-degree laziness in human beings. It's just laziness. It's moral laziness. It's creative laziness. It's intellectual laziness. And I think maybe that goes with what you're saying, is like, and I'm like disgusted by laziness of just people just being like, oh, whatever, they're just these formless garbage bags with like autumn leaves spilling out because nobody tied it. That's like their whole persona, But I'm sorry, go on. I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, no, no. It wasn't an interruption. Not. It wasn't an interruption at all. Yeah, there's definitely lots of things that I think are worth discussing when it comes to the the AI image generators. Um, and one of the things is that it's another medium. Like I remember when it came out. Not strictly when it came out, just like like a while ago, whatever. There were like all of these videos about like, oh my god, it's like art is over, and what is the being an artist and all of this stuff or whatever. Like not even talking
Terrible.
necessarily not even necessarily talking about how the device is trained, trained, quote unquote. And I was like, this is so fucking stupid. It's like, I mean, I just think it's like the argument is very emotional. All right, I
Yeah,
feel like it's not rational. Because this is not the first time this has happened. All right, people thought art was dead when photography came out. It's the same thing, and that
yeah,
is not the case. It's another medium. It requires its own skill. It requires a whole different skill for a person to use that medium. And so, like, something that I learned recently, just regarding art in general, is that the point of a medium is to be able to see to be able to but I mean, part of art appreciation and part of making art also is to be able to deftly manipulate the medium, and then for the viewer to be able to appreciate the artist's skill with that medium. So if you're looking at a painting, for example, you want to be able to see how the artist manipulated the brushstrokes, the color. So you
mhm,
want to see, because it's about the paint, right?
yeah,
So then you want to be able to see that stuff and kind of like be like, wow, how did he do that? It's like, like, even if you're an experienced artist yourself, you want to be like, wow, how did he do that with the paint, right?
yeah,
Because that's what a work of art is. So then it kind of has like both sides, from the artists and from the viewers, kind of, so then like, at least in part, I think that's what's happening with the generators. The generators are trying their damnedest to imitate the traditional quote unquote mediums, right?
yeah.
And that's not the point of that. It's a digital medium, so it should be whatever it's going to do. Like, you shouldn't be trying to make traditional work. You should be
Right.
trying to make.
Meaning they want it to look like a painting, and you're saying why do
Yeah,
that when you can just use it
right.
to generate a false photo?
Right. So like, it's like the same thing. Like, the traditional media, quote unquote, do the same thing, which is really stupid. It's like hyperrealism. It's fucking stupid, because it's like, no, just take a fucking picture. What are you doing?
Yeah. Well, I
You,
agree. I
you
think
know?
hyperrealism is literally it exists purely as a display of skill, which is like a
Not
little bit.
even.
I don't want to say empty virtuosity, but it's also just like I don't really care about looking at a like I want to see the paint strokes. I want to see the motion. I want to see like the movement and the texture of a drawing or a painting. I think that's
Right.
way more attractive than just like I spent 4 years painting this woman's face, so now it just looks like a photograph. It's like cool, cool
Right.
story, you know.
Cool story, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I think that's I mean, it's like the same kind of pointlessness. There's that, for example. And I mean, I think it's going to be a while until that medium kind of finds its voice, like the same way that a person has to find their own voice with when they're making whatever art it is. For example, you know. And there's also the problem I have is how much agency the device has in the production of an image. Because it's not that a user simply puts in a prompt.
mhm,
That's kind of how you start. But then if you want to, so like, when you and I, when you're drawing, you erase, you draw, you erase, you draw, you move things around, you put it here, you change a color, whatever it is. It's you're the one that has all the agency on how that image looks. All right, so there's some degree of manipulation like that when you're using the generator. It's like, oh, you change the prompt, you add this, you seed the image, um, meaning that you keep this image and then you try to change it and then you put it into the Photoshop or whatever. You do this type of manipulation type stuff. So then that is, of course, its own kind of manipulation, but then it's still, it's like, I mean, I view it kind of, to me, it looks more like a collaboration more than a work of art by the one person, because it's a collaboration between the person and the device, because the device has so much agency, has so much say on what the image is going to look like. Because the thing is
mhm.
the one that's producing the image, like the production of the image happens within the device. Something is
Yeah,
happening in
yeah.
there.
As far as I understand, I don't think it's interesting because it brings us back to our discussion of reality as a narrative,
Mm-hmm,
reality as a
mm-hmm,
story.
mm-hmm.
I don't think the AI generator has an understanding of narrative. I think it creates image based on like algorithmic tendencies. So like when you
Yeah.
you'll see a lot of images, like a lot of people and again, I'm not against all AI images. I'm like,
Sure.
some people have been using them to make some pretty funny weird stuff, and I think they're fun. Like one of them was this guy has a YouTube channel where he uses AI to create like fake production art for movies that never existed.
Hmm.
And like one of them was like if David Lynch had made Frasier. So it's like a version of the show Frasier where it's like really upsetting and creepy.
Right.
And he did like, a version of the movie Ghostbusters, but it was made by like Clive Barker. So instead of funny, it's like fucking horrifying
Right.
imagery. And it looks incredible.
Right.
But if you look, the images have a certain tendency of characters in three-quarter turn, lit with either orange or blue, and then the background is orange or blue, depending on, because orange and blue have that perfect contrast.
Right.
So it's like, and they're all doing a similar thing. And the reason they do that is because they're gathering information about films and how many films do that, because artists have made those decisions, because we realize warm and cool colors contrast and make stronger images. So it's just like, I don't know that I think a collaboration may not be the right word, because that implies the intent of two or more people, and I don't think the machine has intent. I think it's like it. I think the device, the AI creature that they've made, it's very good at taking visual tendencies and then kind of mixing it up into different puzzle pieces that they can
Right.
use to create images,
Right.
and like that's cool. But I would say, like, people, I don't even use the term AI art, because it's like, it's not really art. Art is made by people. And it's like, if you're someone, I'm actually kind of okay with somebody using AI as a part of their process, because I know that, and that's inevitable anyways. So like, people who will begin an image using AI, and then they'll kind of take it and they'll paint over it and they'll draw it, or I know that some concept artists are already using AI to jumble up a concept of a creature or a character, because it creates such weird stuff, and then they'll take that and they'll kind of, I wouldn't personally want to do that, because I feel like why would I want to rush having a good time? Like, that's the most fun thing for me, is like,
Hmm.
you know for my job, they're like, well, we need an alien that feels like it exists in an environment where there's no gravity. I'm like, oh, cool. Okay, let me see what I can. I'm sure AI can come up with something, but like, that's fun for me. But yeah, I would say that it doesn't have narrative, or I mean, and that's why you can't really make an AI comic book. You can't really do it. People have tried it. It doesn't look like anything, because it can imitate an image, but it can't create a sequential piece, because it doesn't understand cause and event. It doesn't understand, at least doesn't seem to. Even when AI writes episodes of something, with how the
Yeah.
AI write a fictional episode of Seinfeld, it was like, it flows, but it flows because it feels like it's amalgamation of like 100 episodes of Seinfeld that it made
Hmm.
into like, but there's no jokes. It's not funny. It's just like a thing. It's just, and then this happens, and then this happens, because it doesn't understand comedy. It doesn't understand irony. I hope. I don't want it to understand. I don't want machines getting to that place, because that's terrifying. But yeah, like, in my field, I'm not in any danger yet of being replaced by AI, because I don't think it can make a comic book with like sequences and panels and dialogue and like action, and so. But I know that people who have entry level positions that they're going for at like certain companies, where they want to do art for production of anything, it's hard. It's hard unless. So I know that there's artists now who have a lot more power, who are like basically publicly saying, like, if so and so doesn't make sign a contract that says they're not going to use AI to replace workers, then I'm going to leave. And like, that's kind of what they have to do, because people need to be working, and artists deserve to be paid for their work. And if you're going to like use AI to make something, and you're not paying the person whose name you typed in, that's fucked up.
Yes.
What do you think of that?
Um. Yeah. I mean, I can't say that I have concerns for my the for my drawings. I don't.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Um. But I mean, at the same time, I really haven't done that much research. Like, the extent of research that I've done was just watching videos or trying to watch videos of people's arguments in favor and against
Hmm.
the AI image generators. There's a lot of arguments against. I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
videos against the from artists, of course.
Yeah.
Who claimed this or that or the other, and it was actually kind of difficult to find anyone who was in favor of the or not just in favor, but at least not against, like
Yeah.
irrationally against, or you're just like emotionally against, or like fueled by fear, or kind of like making these emotional arguments. Maybe I'll send you the one that I found that was like really good, that I think was the best. It's like an hour and a half, an hour. It's like an hour long. The guy has
Yeah,
really
I'd
good
love to see it.
arguments. He has really good arguments. And it's a little bit old, I guess, at this point. I don't remember when it's from. Um, but I don't want to mention the one video that got really famous of against the generators, but his arguments, he was like, yeah, if you agree with this, you're just like a what did he say? Something about throwing your friends to the hyenas or something.
It's a bit of an exaggeration.
Yeah, and I was like, I was reminded of a Congress thing that I watched. I don't know if it was Congress or not, but it had Ta-Nehisi Coates and Coleman Hughes
Mm.
discussing reparations. And so, like, Coates was in favor, of course, of the reparations, and Coleman Hughes was like, that's stupid.
Mhm.
And then Ta-Nehisi's Coates' arguments were like that. They were, I mean, he's a poet, but that's not an argument.
Yeah.
A poem is not an argument. Your tears are not an argument in favor or against anything. That's just how you feel about
Ta-Nehisi
something.
Coates. I'm going to say something publicly. Ta-Nehisi Coates is not a good person.
I mean,
I don't. I think he's. Have you read some of his stuff?
I haven't. No,
He
that's
has.
the only time that I've ever heard or read
Yeah.
anything of his, like that thing between him and Coleman Hughes.
He has said things that are. I don't want to. I don't know. I'm sorry. It's not the point you're making. I apologize. But I just. He has said some things that are like straight up evil in some of his books, and then yeah, he's nuts. He's kind of his whole thing is to inflame division, and he loves to do it. But I'm sorry, that's not the point you were making. Yeah, well, no, I actually maybe is to the point you're making, because you're describing that he's using emotion to argue, and I think that's a manipulation tactic.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, and I guess the just kind of thinking about the arguments against the AI generators, it seems to be like, I mean, I'm not even saying that I think they're great or anything. I just think there's something intriguing there. I just think the device and the users of the device are kind of have to find their way first,
mm,
you know. And at I still there's I kind of actually think it might be helpful, because a lot of the images that I've seen that are generated by the artificial intelligence are really polished, really like a little bit too much, just like a little bit too much,
mm.
and I kind of feel like maybe it will put some fire under our ass, and we can stop being bitches about fucking art, and just like start making good shit again, so that maybe we can compete with that. You
That's
see
a
what I'm
fair
saying?
perspective.
Yeah, so
That's a
then,
fair perspective, because I sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
no, yeah, go ahead, please.
Well, because
You
if
agree
you
with
look at
me.
what people are doing with AI, they're not making they're not making abstract stuff. They're
Right,
making
they're
things that
making
look pretty,
representational. Yes.
and
Yes.
that shows people want that. And in a lot of cases, they're not getting it from, I would say, the mainstream gallery art world. They're not using AI to make stuff that looks like
Like
I don't know,
nothing.
Basquiat. You
Right.
know, um, they're using it to be like, I want to, a lot of it is like, I want to create like a version of like Batman that looks like it was painted by one of the Italian masters. And then, and
Yes.
then you see it, and you're like, oh, cool, because people want that. They want
Right.
something pretty and nice. They don't. So maybe that's a really good point. Maybe that's like what needs to happen is like, hey, the machine is kind of doing the thing you're supposed to be doing. So
Yes. Not
yeah,
just that you're supposed to be doing, but that you're perfectly capable of doing as well. Because, like, that was one of the pussiest ass arguments that I heard. Or just
was
people
what?
whining about it. It's like, oh, what's the point of an artist now? And it's like, stop being such a
Yeah,
little shit, dude.
yeah.
It's like,
Gotta stack up, man.
yeah, it's like, it's just like, I mean, that's the path of least resistance. It's easier to think that you can't do it because then you don't have to
Yeah.
try, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
No, I agree. I don't think there should
yeah.
be any law that like prevents people from creating generative AI just to save artists. I don't think that at all. I just think if you're using if you're literally typing in, if you're using an artist's work, you're putting it into a generative trainer to create an image, it does feel like you're stealing their work to some extent. And I had someone reach out to me and show me that there was something that was actually, they were like, I'm pretty sure this was based on your stuff, which I was surprised me because I was like, I'm not popular enough to have this problem. But then I looked at it and I was like, this does look like, it was like exactly my drawing style. And it was a character that looked like one of my characters, but it was kind of redone. And it was and it had Mid-Journey hashtag and it was on something. And I was like, fuck me. I was like, I can't believe I'm dealing with this. And I didn't repost it, or I didn't blow the guy up because, hey, I don't want to like promote it, but also because I was like, I mean, he wasn't making money off it. It was just on his Instagram. But it made me laugh because he had like 4,000 likes, and I don't get that much attention for the actual original art. But I was like, okay, it's just he had 50,000 followers on his social media, so it's like, good for him or her or whoever that was. But yeah, I saw that, and it was like one of those moments where I was like, yeah, okay, you used me to get some attention, and I didn't get paid for it. That bothers me, but also like, whatever. I'm just gonna move on and keep doing what I do. I draw all day. It's all I do anyway. So it's like, even if the machines march down the street and they, burn down the White House, I'm going to be here like, I'm going to be here drawing my stuff. It's like,
Right.
it's what I do with my life. But I like your perspective on this, that I do think people in general, and this goes across all political divides, all ideological standpoints, people need to stop fucking whining.
I
And
agree.
they need
Yeah,
to
no, you're definitely right about
chase,
that.
chase their joy, get better, be awesome. Like, just be great. Be great at what you're doing, guys. Get awesome.
Yes, I think that's a really, because I mean, we broke the hour mark a while ago.
Yeah.
So I think I'm gonna start to close it out, Ryan. So why don't you talk again about your Kickstarter? I mean, are you still taking
No, it's
Kickstarter
over.
people?
It's no. Yeah. It's already done. I'm not here to really. I mean, people should definitely come. You know what? If I'm going to plug something, I'll plug my YouTube channel.
Yeah, do
People
it. Yeah, yeah,
support you.
because you do live streams, right?
Yeah, weekly, sometimes a few times a week. But at the very least, it's once a week. But probably more now. Um, yeah, it's just my name. It's Ryan Gutierrez, and I have streams that are usually just called Drawing Comics, and I just draw comics live, and people hang out with me. They can join me in the chat. I have friends like yourself who are going to call in using Google Chats and talk to me while I'm drawing, and we'll just chill out.
Oh, yeah, let's plug that. That's gonna be on December. Wait, let me check again my
I think it was the
calendar.
10th.
Yeah, I think, yeah, December 10th at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, guys. Um, Everyone who's listening, that's gonna be live, but then you have it available
Yeah,
on
then it's just on
recording.
my
Yeah.
channel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's gonna be live, so then you can, come on over, hang out, and talk.
And you guys, you really need to appreciate this, everybody. The physical difficulty that was for her to not use a military time just now. I could see her. The fact that you
Oh
didn't
yeah.
say 1600.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's just that, yeah, the display on the Google Calendar doesn't have it. I don't know how to make it. It's kind of annoying because, yeah, I'm a advocate for the military time because then you don't need the stupid AM PM stuff or anything.
I think it works. I think
All
it
right.
works.
All right, so then that's going to be it, everyone. I'm going to have Ryan's first episode in the description, in the show notes. Please check that out. After checking this one, or look at that one and then look at this one. It's the end of this one. I don't know. But look at the video description. Ryan's channel is going to be there, and also links that you can support, through which you can support this channel. So thanks, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye.